Hello! Welcome to OJ Studios. Please enjoy this week's chapter of what I did during spring break. Chapter 2: The Meeting. We took Steven's car to the meeting since Steven did not want to participate as a test subject, and the card did say that someone needs to take both Justin and me home. The past few days I kept reading the card over and over to see if I could crack the code and figure out what Dr. Antonio Saragetti needed with test subjects. The University of Northfield was a lot bigger than the Northfield Community College, and it took us a while to navigate around the old brick buildings and find the engineering department. I looked with awe and jealousy as I sat in the back seat of Steven's old Nissan. I had always dreamed of coming here when I was a kid. When I was in elementary, all my friends dreamed of coming here and becoming a Northfield University Badger while we played tag football on the elementary field. In high school we endured 2-a-days with the goal of signing the letter of intent to play here. For me that goal almost happened, but a few days after signing my letter for a full-ride scholarship I broke my ACL and was forced to the sidelines for the rest of the season, ending the scholarship. Steven parked the car in a parking garage, and we rode the elevator down to the ground floor. We did not really talk, we just basically looked down at our phones as we tried not to ask ourselves so many questions about what we were going to have to do. "Hey Steven!" a voice said, startling me. I looked up and rolled my eyes. The voice belonged to Steven's girlfriend Abby. Okay, it is not like I do not like Abby, but it seems like every time we go on a group outing with just the three of us roommates, Abby somehow shows up. "Hey!" he said, his eyes lightening up as he walked over and gave Abby a brief kiss. "You told her?" I asked. "Of course, he did. Abby said we're saving the payout so we can go on a summer cruise." During summer break, Abby brushed her chestnut-colored hair over her shoulder. "So, let's just get this over with, dear," she said, taking Steven's hand. We all walked into the main lobby of the engineering building. We stood in the enormous lobby as we looked through the directory and finally found out where we were supposed to be. I walked behind the group as we walked through the maze of empty hallways and up 3 flights of stairs until we came to a large lecture room. I opened the door to find that we were not the only one here to be test subjects. There were at least 30 people sitting in the auditorium seating, talking amongst themselves. I led the way as we found a spot in the 5th row and took a seat next to Abby. "If they only have limited spots, we're toast," Steven said before he sat down. I looked around and thought the same thing. What chance did the 4 of us have against the 30 other people? Maybe it's something most people wouldn't want to do. Justin whispered so no one could overhear us. "Maybe," Abby said hopefully. We waited for a few minutes before the lights dimmed down, lighting only the podium in the front center of the room. A young blonde girl about my age walked out of a side room and up to the podium. "Can I have your attention?" she said, and waited for everyone to quiet down. "Great, my name is Alicia, I'm a senior here at Northfield University and I'm studying advanced human biology with a minor in engineering. Thank you for coming. We do have a few rules before we get started. First, there will be a non-disclosure agreement form coming around. I promise we will start explaining everything once everyone signs it. If you refuse, you will be asked to leave." I watched a few people leave before a man came forward with a couple of clipboards to start getting signatures from the crowd. "Do we sign it?" Abby whispered. "Why not, we made it this far," Justin said, shrugging, "might as well see what it's all about." The man got to us and I quickly filled out my information and agreed to the form without really reading it first. The rest of our group did the same. I looked around and found there was only about 20 people in the room with us. Our chances were improving. Once everyone got a chance to sign, Alicia got back to the podium. She shuffled some of her papers around before she spoke. "Second rule, no cell phones or other recording devices. I am going to have someone come around to collect them. Don't worry, we will have them locked up in a safe so no one can get to them." Another man got up and walked through the aisle, passing along a shoebox-sized box. I looked at Abby, who had her cell phone out and was texting on it. "Well, this sucks," she whispered, finishing her last message and turning off her cell. I had to agree. During the boring parts I was hoping to be able to check Facebook or Twitter. I had no idea what to do now when the boring parts come. Once the man came around, we surrendered our cell phones and sat there quietly. I started to second guess this decision and I started to wonder what could be so secretive. Once more Alicia got up to the podium and shuffled around some papers before looking up at the crowd. She looked both nervous and excited at the same time. "Now that all the fun stuff is done, may I introduce Dr. Antonio Serighetti." She looked over to the side room door where an old man who looked to be in his late 60s walked out and up to the podium. "Thank you," Dr. Serighetti said sternly. I could feel the Sheldon Cooper vibes already radiating from him. "Holy shit, your cousin wasn't kidding!" Justin whispered to Steven while drive. Serighetti stiffly said some welcoming words and thanked a few people. "I would tell you what this experiment is all about, but I don't think you will understand it, so instead I will show you." With the thanks of the biology lab, we here at Northfield University have found what humans have been looking for since the beginning of time. We have been looking for the fountain of youth, and it is my great honor to tell you all that the fountain is here and ready for its first round of human trials. There was an audible gasp from the crowd and some murmuring. "Did your cousin say anything about him being a little crazy up there?" Abby asked. "No, she said he was extremely strict and arrogant but very smart in this field," Steven said. "Quiet down please," Dr. Serighetti said, holding up his hand. "I'm sure you all have a lot of questions and I'm here to answer them." The room quieted down. People were curious about what this man had done with his team. "My class and I have been working for a few years on a project that can turn an adult human into a child with just 1 hour-long Helsing radiation therapy." "Did he say radiation?" I asked, looking over at Steven, who nodded. "Don't ask me," he said with a little shrug. "I bet you're asking what Helsing radiation is, and put simply, it is a radiation that Robert Helsing discovered back in the 1950s. He discovered that under this radiation human cells reverse back to younger versions of themselves, effectively making the cell younger. My class and I took his research and expanded on it, making the radiation more widespread and making a grown-up become a child with little to no side effects." "If it's true, that's amazing," Abby whispered. Now we weren't done there. We then started to look into how we can readjust our genes with a hair follicle from 2 donors. We can now change a person's whole genetic code, so even fraternity tests would say the donors are the subject's parents. Pretty cool, huh? Everyone kind of chuckled. Good news is it is reversible up to the first 30 days and then the change is permanent. I looked over at Abby and Steve, their mouths were down in amazement. If this is true, no one would ever die, they would just go to a clinic and become someone else. Just think of what the world would be like after that. "So, I bet you're wondering what we need you for," Dr. Serighetti continued. "Well, we need more people to test this. The FDA has only granted human trials a few weeks ago and we need more people to test it out before we can go public." Dr. Serighetti shuffled a few papers on his podium and turned a projector on, which lit up a screen behind him showing a PowerPoint. "This testing trial will go on for 7 days starting today. After the procedure you are free to go along with your normal life. The only thing different is that you are younger. You will be given $1,000 per day paid with a check after the testing period. A $1,000 advance will be given to you today, and the reasons why will become clear later." My heart stopped and I looked over to the others in the group, who also looked in shock. The flyer only said $1,000, I know I have practically read the flyer now 1,000 times. Now there is a few things we cannot control yet. One is your age. We have seen age ranges varying between 2 years old and 13 years old. Basically, anywhere between toddler and the start of puberty. Another thing we cannot control is whether you are going to end up being a boy or a girl. It appears when we scramble your genetic code you also get put back into the gender lottery. "Great, Abby could be a boy, could you imagine?" Justin whispered, looking over to Abby. Steven nudged him and looked like he was trying not to show that he was trying not to laugh. "I'd be the girliest boy you've ever seen," Abby said, winking at Justin. Surprisingly, after hearing that they might become the opposite gender, a few people got up from their seats and walked to the exit. One man passed me mumbling to himself that he would never become a girl. "So, to continue," Dr. Serighetti said, getting our attention again, "I have a few pictures I would like to show you of before and after of some of our students." Dr. Serighetti turned around and pointed a remote at the screen to change the side. The side showed a picture of Alicia. You already met Alicia earlier. She has gone through this procedure twice already. the first time she was turned into a 7-year-old girl. He showed a picture of a small Hispanic girl next to the picture of Alicia. Alicia's next time she spent 2 days as a little boy looking like another Weasley. A picture came up next to Alicia. The boy was about 5 years old and had fiery curly red hair. The crowd laughed a little at Dr. Serengeti's joke. I do have to admit I did laugh a little at that. Here is Ethan. You probably know him from the University of Northfield's football team. He showed a picture of Ethan in his football uniform. So, when Ethan came to us to volunteer, he begged us to make sure he stayed a boy. Of course, we can't guarantee that, so. Dr. Serengeti paused for a moment and then clicked the remote. A picture of a little girl around 6 years old appeared next to Ethan's football picture. The girl had long brunette hair and freckles dotted her cheeks. She was also wearing a small cheerleading uniform that was a replica of the black and gold Northfield Badgers cheerleading uniform that you can get through the university's gift shop. Ethan spent a week as a little girl, and even though he didn't want to be a girl, he actually got used to it and even has plans to come back sometime during the summer with hopes he will be a girl again. He even helped us get FDA clearance for human testing. See, you'd like being a girl, Abby said, looking over to Justin. Justin just scrunched up his face and mocked her a little. Dr. Serengeti went through a few more examples of his students changing and even showed a time-lapse of one of his students changing from a guy to a girl. So, this is the end of my presentation. I will give you an hour to decide whether you would want to participate. When you do, come and see Alicia down here. Thank you. The lights turned on and Dr. Serengeti left the podium and walked back into the side room. I looked over at the rest of our little group, wondering what everyone else thought about this, but none of them spoke. So, do we do this? I asked, breaking the silence. Aren't you scared of it? Justin asked. I mean, we would become kids again. That doesn't scare you? I've been a kid before, I said, shrugging, and it is only for a week, right? It's good money. You three can really use it. I'll stay out of it and babysit you three, Justin said. Yeah, that'll pay for our cruise and maybe a new bikini, Abby said. I'm in. Why not? I'm not going to let Abby have all the fun, but if I turn into a girl, I swear I'm going to be mad the whole time, Justin said. I'm going to do it too, I said. I got no choice, I got to pay my share of the rent. Well then, it's settled, Steven said. Let's get you checked in. Hang on, I said, stopping them. We need 2 hair follicles from 2 donors. Where are we going to find that? Easy, Abby said, plucking a few hairs from Steven. She then grabbed her purse and grabbed a brush. I helped brush a friend of mine's hair last night. Her haven't cleaned off the brush yet, but these hairs will do. So, we're going to be Steven's and your friend's biological kids? I asked. Got any other ideas? Nope, I said, grabbing 2 of the hairs from her. We met with Alicia with a group of about 10 other adults who were accepting Dr. Serengeti's offer and followed her over to the engineering lab. Once we got to the engineering lab, we were taken to different cubicles where a medical bed was placed in the center. Someone will be with you shortly, Alicia said, closing a curtain. I was left alone by myself as the others went to the other cubicles. I looked around, half excited for what might happen, and half scared that I might be stuck as a kid forever. Or worse, be stuck as a little girl forever. Hello! A man said behind me, making me jump. Sorry, didn't mean to startle you. The man said, my name is Eric and I'll be preparing you for the operation. Please take off your t-shirt and lay down. I took off my shirt and lay down on the bed and watched Eric write a few things down on his clipboard. So, have you ever done this? I asked. Twice, Eric said. First time I was a 13-year-old boy and the second time, well, let's just say I was Erica for a whole weekend. Doesn't it suck to be a girl though? I asked. Nah man, it was cool. It was the same weekend as the Winter Little Miss Princess contest. I got 3rd place. I'll take your word for it, I said, laying down on the bed. Eric then took my hands and cuffed them to the table. I looked at him with questionable look on my face. It's just to keep you still while you are unconcise. Don't worry, it won't be for long. Great, I said, watching him taking a mask connected to a tank from one corner. I'm going to put this on you. Just count backwards from 10 and you'll just drift to sleep. Eric slipped the mask over my mouth and nose and I slowly fell asleep.